Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Depends on where you're watching from. It's me, Olushola Akinjola. So today I'll be telling us about employer-employee relationships. A lot of people get job offers and they fail to realize that your letter of employment is not just a congratulations or a congratulatory message. It's also a document that you need to sit down and read through. You read through the document and you're sure that you are okay with the terms and conditions before taking that job offer. A lot of letters of employment contain certain clauses that you ought to mention whilst being offered the job offer at first. You're supposed to mention those things to the organization that okay, these are the things I have seen, and ask for can I ask for ask you're free to ask questions. So it's always better to get clarity at the point of getting your employment and not whilst you started working. Once you start working, it means that you have agreed to all the terms and conditions of that organization. So it's quite late to begin to speak at that point in time. So today I will be sharing with us different types of employment contracts. I won't be able to cover all, but I'll mention the most vital and common kinds of contracts, employment contracts that we have now in Nigeria. So number one is where you have a purely master servant relationship. For purely master servant relationship, a master can decide to terminate your employment at any point in time for any reason whatsoever. For any reason whatsoever, your boss could wake up and say, "Look, girl, you've done so much for us. We appreciate you, and we think it's time we find somebody else." So it's painful, but that's a purely master servant relationship. However, there are some organizations that have an exception where it's a purely master servant relationship, but they have certain guidelines that guide the organization as regards termination of the employment of an employee. So, in purely servant master relationships, I mentioned that your employer can terminate your employment at any time and for any reason whatsoever. And at the same time, you have some organizations that have guidelines that guide in the termination of employment of their staff. So, number two type of employment contract is where you have an employment that is guided by statutes. Now, what are statutes? There are some organizations that have the staff handbook or the employees handbook. Now, this handbook states guidelines for where people are involved in gross misconduct, where a staff is involved in criminal activities, or where a staff is involved in fraud, or where a staff was involved in a communal clash, or where a staff was involved in corruption, or where a staff was involved in, in murder or any form of gross misconduct within or outside the organization. So where such issue is raised and an employer intends to terminate such employment, it needs to go through certain statutory guidelines. You can't just wake up as an employer and say, "I think I'm done with you, you need to go." No, you need to follow the guidelines stated in that statutory document of the organization. So it depends where, when you get a job, be sure of the guidelines that guide your organization. Be sure of the contents of your employment letter. Be sure of the contents of the staff handbook. Don't just collect a staff handbook and keep it somewhere when you get home. No, it's something you should read. It's something that would help you in the course of your stay while working in that organization. It helps you to see the benefits of the organization. It helps you to see how structured they are. You do not really have to be in HR to know all of this. You should study your employment handbook and understand the pros and cons of that organization as regards dismissal, termination, as regards benefits, promotion, and even the good sides. Let's put our eyes off the bad side. The good sides, what with this organization, what are things I need to know about this organization? What's the vision, the mission of the organization? What will happen to me if I put in my best to this job? So those are things you need to know, and all of that is contained in the staff handbook. So it's time we begin to take things more seriously and begin to, not only productivity at work, but also before you get that, not only focusing on productivity when you get a job. Before you get the job, are you ready? Do you understand the terms and conditions of the job you're taking up? So I believe you've been able to learn one or two things this morning. Have an amazing day. God bless you. Bye.